Ahoy, hoy, everyone. Welcome to another spooky episode of the O Show. I'm O, and I'm here for your amusement. All right, y'all. So today's episode, we are going to talk about a really fun movie that I vividly remember watching a lot as a child. I don't know why, but it happened. And this is 1990's Arachnophobia, which I am pretty sure all of us have. You guys, okay, so this movie came out in 1990, and I'm pretty sure around 91, the last school I was at that time, they used to always have, if not every Friday, it was maybe every other Friday. It might have been every Friday. But anyway, everyone was allowed to bring a movie in, and we would watch it for the last 2 hours or whatever of the day. And I remember there was so many of the same movies that came out in 1990 and 91. They were in full rotation. Once that shit hit video stores, people would go and buy themselves a copy. And then, oh my God, we used to watch the same movies over and over again until one day I broke that cycle. And that's a funny ass story. I will tell it one day when I review the movie. But people used to always bring Arachnophobia in. We were in 3rd, 4th grade. I don't understand why our teacher let this movie play. Now, it's not a horrible movie, but yeah, 3rd, 4th graders, viewer discretion advised. Well, I guess there was a parent in the room, technically our teacher, but whatever. Y'all, when I say, I just rewatched this movie for this review, and this movie aged pretty good. Other than the fashion, this movie is still pretty solid. And the effects are still crazy. I think this movie is not horror. As a matter of fact, even when it came out, they didn't know how to categorize this movie. So it was a mix between a thriller and a comedy. It was never horror. Because even though, yes, I'm still terrified of some spiders now. I shouldn't say some, all. But I was just more fascinated that you obviously know what's a real spider. But you're how do they get that spider to do that? Which I guess now I've heard some behind the scene tricks and things. But yeah, this movie is still pretty good. So we have this team of people who are going to Venezuela. There's some jungle forest situation there, right? And they're there to see if they can discover new animals, which they do. They found some butterflies that haven't been categorized yet, and shooby-dooby-doo. Now there's this guy, I think his name is Manley or something. And he is hired to be a photographer. And so he goes and he's just slowing everyone down. He's just been the most, right? Which, I probably would too. But they get to this spot. They set off this bomb thing. And all the animals that are in this area, and well, I guess I should say insects, they fall victim to this gas and they all just kind of fall dead, right? So again, they found some new butterfly. They got a whole bunch of beetles and things. But then there are these big, huge plops, right? And they're what the hell is that? And they look and they're what is this spider? So they find a couple of these spiders that look very prehistoric. They're old, they're big. And they're damn, we got some dead specimen, but it would be nice to get a live one. But they end up getting a live one. And then not only do they get a live one, there's one that's going rogue everywhere. So this thing crawls into someone's bag. It hitches a ride when they get back to their base camp. So the photographer guy is not feeling really good. So he goes and lays down, right? And then here comes Mr. Spider. So this spider comes out under this guy's blanket. And then he goes and reaches under the blanket and gets bit by the spider. And right away has this seizure. He freezes up and he's bleeding. And he's dead. And so they find his body and they're well, God damn it. So they end up packing his body up and sending him back to the United States. Specifically, this place called Canaima, California, and which is his hometown. So the body is shipped back. They're doing it gets sent to a mortuary, and the mortician is looking at the body. He's oh, whoa, shit. They open it up and they see that this body is drained. Okay, they were like, we're gonna have an open casket for this guy. He's like, no, you're not. So the body is just drained. There are holes in the casket box that he's in, and we see the spider is now crawling his ass out the box. So that whole trip from Venezuela back to the US, this spider was big enough to just fucking drink everything out this man's body. And to get kind of an idea of what we're dealing with, like there's like this floor point of view, and this thing is running into a cat, it's running into a dog, and both the cat and the dog are like, fuck you, we're not messing with you today. And run out this door. So then we see this crow who's flying around and sees the spider, and the crow is like, oh shit, lunch. So it picks the spider up and flies around with it in its mouth. But once it gets to a certain point, the spider fights back, bites the crow, and it falls to the ground dead, like immediately. So, yep. And we are just in time to see a car pull up with a family from San Francisco who just drove into town because Dr. Jennings, who's played by Jeff Daniels, a young Jeff Daniels, has moved into town with his wife and his 2 kids because he's going to be the town's new doctor. The old doctor, who I think his name is Metcalf, he was going to retire. But then this bastard changes his mind on the first day and goes, you know what? I think I'm going to stick around. So, psych. I'm not retiring after all. Just kidding. So now, Jeff Daniels is pissed. He's like, what the fuck? Like, we buy this house, we buy this office, we move our family, and now this doctor's playing games. But he does get one patient. It's this lady who actually is his new neighbor. And she's like, you know what? I'll be your patient. So there you go. So when the family gets to the house, they're unpacking, and the little boy finds a spider in a box, right? So we learn right away that the son and the father are just terrified of spiders. The daughter's not terrified, and of course the mom isn't, because the dad was like, yes, wife, come over here and get this spider out the house, because the men can't do it. So the wife comes over and gets the spider, and I don't even know how who does this? Who just picks the spider up with like some tissue and just walks it out? Like, that is so fucking creepy to me. So they walk all the way to this barn and lets the spider out to just go live his life in the barn, right? But what they don't realize is that the big huge spider that came from Venezuela is outside and is in the barn, and him and the spider, who I guess is female, to keep it PG. What's this movie rated? PG? They have spider sex, okay? This spider rapes it didn't rape. I think it was consensual. But he has sex with the spider, which, now that I think about it, how the hell this big ass spider mate with this little ass spider? You know, usually it's the other way around, where it's the female is bigger than the male spider. But anyway, they're 2 different species. So anyway, we're not gonna turn this into a Discovery Channel situation. Long story short, we see that there's this big old egg sac, right? Because now we have mutant babies. Now that we have mixed the DNA of these 2 spiders. So the babies hatch, and now they're just kind of running free in this neighborhood. So the first victim to die from one of these newly hatched spiders is the lady next door, the patient. I think her name is Margaret. So Margaret throws a party for the new doctor to kind of welcome into town. And then that night, she's over here just minding her own business, and this spider is in her lamp. So when she goes to turn off the light, it bites her. They find her body the next day, and everyone is now blaming the new doctor, Jeff Daniels, because when he went to see her, he realizes that the previous doctor, Metcalf, had her on this like blood pressure medicine, and he's like, your blood pressure is fine. Like, why are you still taking these medicines? So he takes her off the medication. So now the new doctor is like, well, why the fuck did you do that? You killed her. So everyone's making him feel bad. He's like, no, I didn't. You're old and you were misprescribing her. So even though the old doctor is still in town, there's this coach at the high school, and he's like, hey, you know what? I understand your patient died. I got some work for you. So Which I don't understand why the high school doesn't have like a nurse to do this, or maybe because he figures it's a male doctor. Like, I don't know, maybe the old doctor did this, but he brings the new doctor in, Jeff Daniels, and he comes into the high school and he gives a checkup to all the boys, which is literally just them dropping their shorts. What is this test? I still to this day do not know what exactly are the doctors checking for when they do this. But you know, the hand is on the balls, and then you have to turn and cough, and whatever that test is what he's doing. But here's what's so funny. I don't know if I realized this as a kid, but as an adult, this scene is really long. Like, look how long this scene is. Okay, we really only needed like, I don't know, 3-4 boys for this joke to happen, but they went through the whole fucking football team of dudes. Why? So the coach is outside with the football team and they're practicing, and the doctor goes out and sits and he's watching. And we unfortunately get our next victim when a spider decides to go into one of the boys' helmets. And while he's running a play, it bites him. I believe he got bit behind his ear. And so they thought he just got like a bad concussion, like when they tackled him. But no, it was a spider bite, but they don't know that yet. And so, of course, this damn town, everyone's whispering and gossiping. And now people are calling the doctor, Dr. Death, because they're like, well, who was the last person who like saw him? Oh, it was the doctor. He checked his balls. Like, that's so stupid. So now we have another funeral because someone else died in the town. So everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? So Karma ends up coming back to the old doctor, Metcalf, because he's always talking shit about Jeff Daniels. So he's at home with his wife and he's on the treadmill and there's a spider on it. And then the spider ends up going into his shoe. So he's about to take a shower. He went to go put his slippers on, and then the spider bites him in the toe. But the wife is thinking he just had a heart attack. So of course, like, the police come, the examiner comes and whatever. And they're like, well, it seems like he might have just had a heart attack. He was on the treadmill before, right? However, the wife did tell them, like, you know, he did say that a spider bit him right before he had the heart attack. So Jeff Daniels is like, well, I want an autopsy. So they have the autopsy, and it comes back that he does have this high percent of toxins in his body, and they even find the spider mark, right? The spider bite. So now Jeff Daniels is like, well, hold on now, because you know we had these other 2 people who died. Like, what are the odds? So he actually gets permission to go and dig up the other bodies and just have them checked. And sure enough, everybody that recently died, they find a spider bite. We get this scene inside the coach's house where the coach is like trying to use the toilet, but his daughter's taking a shower, so he ends up going to another bathroom in the house. And this scene has always just freaked me out. Like, there's this spider crawling, and look, I remember like going into the shower and using the toilet and just looking around first, like, oh my God, are there these spider webs around? And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Admit it, you did this too. But like, this girl is taking a shower, and I learned like later that the spider actually did jump. I don't know how they got this thing to jump, but it was supposed to jump like on her chest, but like the aim was off and it jumped on her face, which is the final shot they got in the scene until it starts moving its way down. But here's the thing, you guys, like, did I say this before? Like, all the spiders are real, right? Yeah, when I was a little kid, I'm like, wow, how did they get that spider to do this? That's obviously fake. That's obviously fake. But all this is real. But they actually used real spiders that they made sure never got hurt. Like, no spiders were harmed in the making of this movie. They were doing certain things and this and that. They used like spray to keep the spider from going like, you know, too far this way, and it will stay over here and just stuff like that. And so I guess as people knew, I think they were called like Avondale spiders, Avondale, something like that. So they're harmless. They don't bite. They don't do anything. You just have to just get used to these fucking spiders. I don't know how people did it, but Yeah, so the girl in the movie was just like, okay, well, I know this thing is not going to hurt me, which is why she's just so, she's not freaking out or flinching or anything, even when this thing like jumps on her face. So of course she had to do the acting when she notices it and tries to get it off her leg and all this other stuff. And then the dad, the coach, he was in the other bathroom. There was a spider on the toilet, but he wasn't sitting on it long enough to get bitten or anything. When the daughter started screaming, like it's a thing. It's a funny scene. But yeah, that's the story behind the spiders. If you guys were not aware of that, I figured that much as I got older and watched the movie back in the day. But yeah. There's a popular scene that comes on after this whole spider in the shower scene. So John Goodman is in this movie, and this is now the second time they show him. So the first time he gets called to Jeff Daniels' house because Jeff Daniels is trying to do a wine cellar in his cellar. A wine rack. A wine cellar, right? Yeah. He's trying to put wine in the cellar. And so he's screwing and nail gunning, and he realizes the wood is just really all rotten. So he thinks it's termites. So the wife calls the exterminator, played by John Goodman. And his name is Delbert. Is it Delbert? McClintock? That's the most craziest name. Something along those lines. So anyway, he comes out and he's like the comic relief. I like how he has like his own like theme music every time he's on screen. Like this instrumental song starts playing. And so the second time we see him, he then gets called to the coach's house. And he doesn't find any spiders in the house, but when he goes outside, he sees one on the deck. And so he's spraying it with his poison and nothing happens. So he's like, fuck you. He goes over and smashes it with his foot, which obviously is like a bag of potato chips used as that sound. But, they were like, it's potato chips, it's mustard packets. It's just like the slime that comes up. But like that, I didn't know in that scene, obviously he didn't step on a spider. I figured that. But how they did that is there was a hole in the bottom of his shoe, or it might have been someone else. I don't know exactly whose foot this is when he crushes the spider, but there's a hole under the shoe. So when the person goes to step on this spider, that's how the real spider did not actually get killed. So there you go. The more you know.
Yeah, that's right. I'm bad.
So blah, blah, blah. What ends up happening is this full investigation with Jeff Daniels and a whole bunch of other like dudes. And so they find that the Manley, the guy who died in the beginning, he went to Venezuela, and they're like, okay, well, yes, this is his hometown. And they got in contact with one of the doctor scientist dudes, Alberton or something. I'm trying to remember these people's names. And so they get in contact with the guy who was on the expedition with him, and they're telling him all this stuff, and they're relaying information back and forth, and he realizes there might be a connection because the guy who died, he was on our Venezuela trip. So now if you're saying these spiders are biting, we did discover this crazy new thing, of spiders. So anyway, they're putting two and two together, and they eventually come up with this whole thing.
In this first generation, the original male also produced a queen, and together they will construct a primary nest, which the queen will guard. But eventually, she will create reproductive offspring of her own, and when that happens, this town is dead.
All right, so now they're on the mission of trying to find these nests, right? They're like, okay, now if this is happening, there's probably going to be another batch of spiders, and this is usually probably where they're going to be. And so they narrow it down to Jeff Daniels' barn, because he's like, well, shit, my wife found a big, huge nest. Well, not a nest, just webs in the barn earlier. And it kind of clicks to him. That's probably where these spiders are coming from. So one stop they make is to the mortician's house, and they find him dead with his wife. Oh my God, you guys, look, I can't think of her real name. It's this right here. But she played Mimi from the Drew Carey Show. Now, these people's death always like confused me because there was one spider in the popcorn bowl, right? They're watching Wheel of Fortune, and someone goes in and grabs the spider with their popcorn. So, okay, you got bit in the face somewhere, whatever. But I'm still trying to figure out how the other person died because they're both just on the sofa. One had to have died. The other one had to be like, oh my God, what's happening? And then maybe the spider bit them. But like, how are they both just, they're just chilling. They're in this weird chilling position. So I don't understand how you both got killed by one damn spider. But it's still one spider because when they look at this guy's face, one crawls out of the guy's nose. So whatever. So they go to Jeff Daniels' house and they get there just in time for the egg sack in the barn to hatch, right? So the scientist guy gets killed. All the babies are now coming towards the house, and they get into the house and it turns into Night of the Living Dead with spiders in this house. There are spiders on the wall, they're on the TV, they're here, they're there. Like every time you look, 1 turns into 3 and 3 turns into 10 and 10 turns into like 25, and they're just everywhere. This scene drives me crazy. So they have to now escape this house and not get bit by a spider while they do it. So they end up going to this bathroom on the 2nd floor, and then they go out the window, but Jeff Daniels gets caught. Like, these things are coming down on webs. It's so insane. So he manages to get out of the bathroom, but he ends up like falling over the banister on the 2nd floor and falls straight through the floor on the 1st floor. Why? Because it goes back to the whole like termite, this house has bad wood thing. So that's how he fell through the floor. And now he ends up in the basement and realizes like, fuck, there's another nest down here. So yeah, we get the showdown between Jeff Daniels and the General Spider. Well, hold on, back up, because actually he's fighting 2 spiders, because the queen bee, the one that made the egg sack, she's in there protecting the egg sack. And so he gets attacked by her first, but he ends up flicking her into an electric box and she gets electrocuted. And then later he has the encounter with the general, like the big main one. And that's when shit goes down. And there's another scene that still looks pretty good, but you know, now that I'm older, I can literally just look and be like, okay, now that's the fake spider right there. Okay, that's the real spider right there. Because it's, when you see the legs walking, you're like, okay, that's a real spider. And then there's sometimes the leg doesn't even like touch the ground. You're like, okay, that's the robot spider right there. But whatever. I'm not even mad at it. So, yeah, he ends up defeating the General Spider by shooting it with a nail gun that we saw earlier in the movie, and he's lighting shit on fire, and yeah, it gets shot into the nest and burns up the new babies. So that this whole cycle of damn mutated spider shit is over. At the end of the movie, we see that the family was like, fuck this place. I would do the same thing. They're like, fuck this place, and they moved back to San Francisco. But once they get there, like the first night, they get hit with an earthquake. So they have to deal with the earthquakes. But you know what? I'd rather deal with an earthquake than a town overrun with spiders, okay? Which they never really like. I mean, I feel like the town is not rid of 100% all of the spiders. I feel like there's still some running around, but we just never see it. But you know what? I'm not gonna ruin this movie for me, because this movie is still pretty good. It's still so creepy. And if you are squirmish when it comes to seeing shit like this, like, I do think people should watch this movie at least once, and then, okay, fine, you don't have to watch it ever again. I have a friend, I've been really trying to show her this movie for like years, and she just won't do it. You know who you are, starts with an M. She would not watch this movie. I've been trying to make her watch it a lot, and she's like, no. And even when I talk about it, she starts itching. So I don't know, maybe I'll try it again. But yes, that's Arachnophobia. It's still a really good movie. Like I said, it over these years, it still stands up. It's funny still, and just everything they do. There's like this weird CGI when they show this house covered with spiders, but we don't have to talk about that. So, so yeah, let me know in the comments below. Have you guys seen Arachnophobia? What was your favorite part? So if I had to rate Arachnophobia, I'm going to give it Do I give it a 3 or 4? Well, hold on. Let's think about this. So I'm going to take 1 away for now. Okay, so cheers. Okay. Oh, that didn't give me enough time to think. Okay. You know what? It's a fun evening tonight. I had a really good time watching the movie. I'm gonna give it 4 for the nostalgia of it all. Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds fair. I'm gonna give it a 4. So there you go. All right, y'all. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'm gonna see you all in the next spooky episode. So until then, TTFN.